Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
As Hanukkah just concluded, I think we all try to relish in the holiday spirit. And the essence of Hanukkah is really, it's a celebration of our love of Judaism. This is really the true meaning. I know we talk about the light and miracle, but it's really to celebrate Judaism, free from persecution from any governing state and any movement in Judaism. This is the core of the holiday as it's presented in the book of Daniel and especially in the book of Maccabees. It's true we can celebrate this light, but it's this idea to practice Judaism free from those who want to do us harm. But in 2020, this idea of celebrating our love of Judaism truly becomes a horrible paradox. We are really celebrating a holiday where we are truly not free from our persecution, and rather an onslaught of attacks against us. In this past Hanukkah season, there have seen numerous anti-Semitic incidences during our Hanukkah celebration. And for the most part, these have been primarily been reported by Jewish sources, some local print media, but no real coverage at a national scale that they truly deserve. So far this Hanukkah, an Anne Frank Holocaust Memorial was defaced in Iowa. In Lexington, Kentucky, a member of the Chabad of Bluegrass was hospitalized after police said he was assaulted by a driver during their menorah lighting at the Chabad house. A man toppled a large menorah in Ukraine, and another menorah was vandalized at Dartmouth College. Another synagogue was vandalized in Iowa. A recently elected New Hampshire state representative shared an anti-Semitic post. A Hebrew academy in Long Island was hacked during their Zoom Hebrew school with kids, displaying Nazi images and messages attacking the students. Anti-Semitic graffiti was found outside Amherst Regional High School in Massachusetts. In Queens, they found more anti-Semitic graffiti. And a bit personal, the Detroit Red Wings, my team, they posted a picture wishing their fans a happy Hanukkah. Yet, this opened the doors for absolute vile anti-Semitism. In France, a family with the mom, the kids, they were singing Hanukkah songs in their car, only to be screamed at, harassed, and assaulted by individuals. And the next one, pay attention. A European Union Court of Justice rules in favor of banning kosher and halal slaughter. I spent a lot of time processing whether or not to give this sermon. I remember my second year in San Diego, a high holiday sermon, I wanted to speak about the horrid anti-Semitism found on college campuses and the United Nations. I think for the most part I got my point across, but the feedback I received from certain congregants that the high holidays or Shabbat, it should be a time of peace, a time of perspective. It's a way to get away from the pain of our reality and enter this safe space free from all this stuff. And I truly get that. When you're with us tonight, I want you to step away from the 24-hour news cycle, to hear our cantors sing and Paul play, and to celebrate the joy of rest. But sometimes I think we are obligated to shed light on what is going on in our community and in the world. And therefore, there's a few things that I want us to consider for tonight. We are facing relentless acts of anti-Semitism. 2019 was the worst year post-1945 in this country for American Jews. Jews were the number one target compared to any other ethnic or racial minority for hate crimes. And the silence of these past 8 days, from those who claim to be our allies and partners in fighting justice, their silence speaks absolute volume. Last Hanukkah, we prayed for the recovery of Yosef Newman, a member of the Jewish community of Monsey, New York, who was brutally attacked. He would later pass away to his wounds, but I promised myself that I would never forget his name. I want to remember it like Leo Frank, the first recorded anti-Semitic murder in this country. Since last Hanukkah and since March when he passed away, we have heard absolute zero press coverage about his murder. There hasn't been justice for his death. An onslaught of attacks this past Hanukkah, the continuation of Jews feeling scared on college campuses, the horrible story, here's another name, of USC student, University of Southern California, Rose Rich. She stepped down from student government after a relentless anti-Semitic social media campaign against her. It pains me to say that I expect anti-Semitism to happen, but it's also the silence from our allies, which pains me too. So every time things like this happen, the question we ask is, what do we do? And whenever there are attacks against us, rabbis and other civic leaders, we try to find the right remedy for that moment. I remember when the murders in Pittsburgh and Poway happened, there were remarkable and incredible rallies throughout this country standing for the Jewish community. But as I witnessed in San Diego, these rallies sooner or later became a platform for other injustices, which at the end, the rallies lost its purpose. Other remedies, more education, encourage society to become more well-read and empathic. I think it's promising that state and federal legislation, they have passed laws against the boycott, divest, and sanction movement targeting Israel. More countries are adopting the definition of anti-Semitism, but still, the remedy is never perfect. For 2,000 years, the Jewish people, we have always been labeled as the total other. And I'm often asked, is it right-wing anti-Semitism? Is it left-wing anti-Semitism? At the end, it doesn't really matter. We're living in the center of a horseshoe, getting hit from both sides. It's right-wing extremist groups here or in Europe, or it's left-wing anti-Semitism. It's also a new phenomenon of the mainstreaming of anti-Semitism, where sources we deem safe, universities, the media, they are given a platform for those who truly espouse anti-Semitic beliefs. And it's their failure for not reporting what happens to our people, but rather what drives their ratings. And finally, here lies the biggest problem I think we all need to process together. And this may be hard to hear. I think that anti-Semitism, it's losing its meaning. It's a combination of anti-Jewish, anti-Jew, anti-Israel. It's overly academic, And I wondered if our society actually understands what anti-Semitism is. And therefore, moving forward, we need to call it what it really is. It's simply Jew hatred. Every incident that I just listed is all about Jew hatred. It pains me because I dislike this terminology, because we are not used to it. But maybe the world would see things differently. Perhaps our so-called allies in the fight for justice, that there are so many acts of Jew hatred. Perhaps the media or universities would stop giving professorships and interviews to Jew haters. I think changing the lexicon, the dictionary, it's painful. But maybe this is the necessary change moving forward. And every time there's major Jew hatred incidents, we need to find some new remedy. And therefore, here's a few take-home points. Be vigilant when there is Jew hatred. Be vocal, speak out, bring to attention, even if something happens in another state or another country. I'm not going to speculate here, but I don't know if the American Jewish community truly knew about these incidences that just took place. Hold my professional organizations, Jewish organizations, accountable, and hold the general community accountable too. Celebrate the good deeds and acts that respond to Jew hatred. During the Muncie attack, during that awful night, Joseph Gluck, who threw a coffee table at the attacker, saved more lives. The table was shattered. Now this table was transformed into a menorah stand, replicating a dreidel. And the final story is going to come from an email from a congregant a couple days ago, a member of our Temple Emanu-El family. And here's his email. We live in a neighborhood in which everyone decorates their houses at Christmas with lightened elves. When we moved into the neighborhood 20 years ago, we wanted to participate in an appropriate way. We agreed to display a dreidel in our yard rather than an elf. No problems with our dreidel for 20 years. This year, someone ripped our dreidel off its tree and took it away. We reported this incident to the Mountain Brook Police and the Anti-Defamation League in Atlanta. The police visited our house and looked at the remaining silver of our dreidel and nailed it to our tree. We're still waiting to hear from the ADL. Our neighbors, non-Jewish, were so disturbed by this act of vandalism and anti-Semitism that they talked among themselves about taking appropriate action. One suggestion was that every house should display a dreidel in its front yard. The bottom line, some of our neighbors who are skilled at woodworking and painting made a new dreidel for us and nailed it to our tree. One of our neighbors is a hunter and installed a deer camera in the bushes next to the new dreidel so we can get a picture of anyone who tries to destroy our dreidel. It's a good story at the end, but we must celebrate these neighbors and celebrate those who fight against Jew hatred. And my final point is the Hanukkah story. Sadly, we know that Jew hatred will continue, but it'll never stop us. It will never define us. We have to speak out for our people. Keep on fighting, and we can make an end of this. Shabbat Shalom.